Hello and welcome to Community Forum. My name is Heather Hansen O'Neill and I am your guest host this evening. When I host a show, I focus on inspiration and contribution. And I am so excited tonight because we're going to be talking about something that is very near and dear to my heart, how the arts impact us and inspire us. And so I don't know, some of you may already be aware of the fact that my past life, I was a professional dancer. And I was on many stages dancing for many years until I injured my foot. And I was told that I couldn't dance professionally any longer. Well, at that point, I gave up dancing for what I thought was for good. I just gave it up. And I realized after the dark years ensued that that was really not the right thing to do. Just because I couldn't dance professionally doesn't mean I shouldn't have that thing that I was so passionate about in my life. So I brought it back in and I dance to this day, and so I am a huge believer in following your passion and being inspired by the arts. And I'm super excited to invite you to learn all about our guest today, who is fantastic, lovely, lovely woman. I'm going to read a little bit about her bio, and then I'm going to ask her some questions about some of these interesting things that she's doing. I think you're going to love her. Lana Levine majored in theater at Butler University in Indiana. She was Miss Indianapolis there and won the Talent Award at the Miss Indiana contest. She's done so many things. She was a television interviewer in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Her first acting job in New York was at the World's Fair. She was with the Serendipity Singers, where she traveled with them for 3 years. She did commercials, auto shows, industrials, and off-Broadway. She appeared and played again Sam on Broadway, and then played opposite Katharine Hepburn in the National Company of Coco. In 1971, she had a baby boy, and he went on the road with her until he was 2. She acted in plays and industrial shows until 1982, when she went back to school for a counseling degree and postmaster's psychoanalytic training. She had a private practice in New York until 2007 and is now retired. And she recently joined 2 choral groups where we're going to find out a little bit more about, but she's just fascinating. You're going to love her. Lana Levine, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about these exciting choral groups that you're a part of right now?
Well, it's very interesting because, as you know, as it said, I'm retired and I moved up to Connecticut and I joined a lot of groups and trying to get to know people. And all of a sudden I realized, you know what I love to do is sing. So why am I not singing? So I joined the Connecticut Choral Society, which meets here in Connecticut, and then also another choral group, which is called the Adesso Choral Group. The Connecticut Choral Society has 80 members, although we just did a concert with 150, which we'll talk about later, and the Adesso has 7 singers.
Oh, wow.
So from being part of a huge group to being part of a very small group, that's where I am.
Oh, wow, that must be a lot of fun.
Well, I had never sung, actually. I never sang classical music. I always did Broadway or jazz or that kind of thing.
Yes.
So it was a very new experience for me, but it's been fabulous. It's just been fabulous.
Well, I need you to tell our viewers about the story that you were telling me earlier with you just had this C. Tell us about the recent performance.
Sea Symphony by Ralph Vaughan Williams. Well, first of all, I will just say that after we did our second performance, the next day I was high all day long. And the next day after that I'm thinking, gee, I must be depressed, and realized that all I was doing was being normal. It was so moving. 150 voices and a 50-piece orchestra. And the last 7 after the story, it's actually a poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and put to music, and it really is about the soul and how the soul goes through life, and of course with the idea that it's ships sailing, and just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful music. And then at the end, the ships sail off to sea, and it gets quieter and quieter and quieter as they go, like the soul goes on to death, actually. And at the end of the concert in Naugatuck Community College was where we did the second one. There was 7 seconds of silence before there was any applause. I mean, it was just so moving.
They were so taken with it.
Yes.
Oh, it just gives me chills to think about
we have a wonderful director. No, I can't say his name. Eric Knapp.
Oh,
and he is fabulous. He really, because as I say, I didn't sing that much classical music, but he knows how to teach and how to get the sound and how to make it come up, and oh, it's wonderful. Wonderful.
And is that the group that you're going to London with, or is that the Odessa group?
Yes, no, the Connecticut Choral Society. And actually, there's a group he also has in New Jersey, and we were together for this particular concert.
Oh, that's how you came up with the 150.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Okay.
And then some, not all of us, but I think about 80 of us are going to London. And then there are 6 other, I believe 6 other choral groups coming from all over the country meeting us there. And it's going to be another 150 voices.
That'll be amazing.
Yeah.
And tell them it's about for the Olympics, right? It's
pre-Olympics. I mean, we're going to be gone before the Olympics actually starts.
Right.
But they had gone to China 4 years ago and sung with a group like this.
Nice.
And then we're doing this. I'm very excited.
Oh, I bet. And that's what I'm talking about, how it ties in with inspiration.
Yes, yes.
It really does. And also the contribution part as well. It ties in with that because you were telling me that there's something going on, a benefit.
Oh, yes. In November, they're doing a benefit for runaway, homeless young people in New York at the Beacon Theater in New York City.
That will be
and
lovely.
that will just be our group. It'll be just our voices and I believe a smaller orchestra.
Okay.
But a very wonderful thing to do, you know, as a benefit. And then we're doing a Christmas concert in December. We do 2 concerts in December. And then, of course, we have another big concert in May. And whatever happens in between.
Exactly, exactly. Things can come up all the time. If you would like to go to see one of these concerts that are so inspirational, you can go to ctchoralsociety.org and check that out. They'll have all of the different, the benefit and all of the different shows that are coming up if you'd like to check that out. I definitely encourage people to go to see amazing music or the theater or dance or, you know, read a poem or go to a museum and see beautiful art. It is so inspiring.
The difference is, like I was saying to some friends who weren't able to come to the concert and were very sorry they couldn't. I said, well, we're going to record it, but you know, it's not the same as being there. Just having that experience, as you say, in theater, in museums, in art, if you have the experience of being there, it's so different.
So different.
Yeah.
Yes, I highly encourage it. And since we're talking a little bit about the theater, I want to backtrack and ask you some questions.
Okay.
All right. I would like to know about your audition with Katharine Hepburn for Coco.
Oh. Well, this is a war story a little bit. I did end up doing the National Company, but I auditioned originally for the Broadway show, and I was down to 2 people, I thought. And when I got there, what the last audition was, there were a whole bunch of other people there, and I didn't get the job. So I said, well, nuts to them. I'm not even going to see the show, and I didn't go see the show. And then they called me in for the National Company. Well, I went in for the National. They didn't call anybody else in for the to sing, and I sang this medley of songs. Something you never sing for auditions for Broadway shows. I just said, I'm going to sing what I want to sing, and the music director stood up and he said, "Oh, Lana, you've never sounded better," and he said, "We'd like you to read with Katharine Hepburn." She came up on stage, and it was like, oh my gosh, I got it. You know, I mean, then when they offered me the job, I couldn't say no. How can you say no?
Of course not.
So it was a wonderful experience.
Oh,
it was really,
that
was
so
amazing,
exciting.
Quite amazing. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness, I can only imagine. Chills again.
Yeah.
Now, how long was that?
That was a 6-month,
Oh,
six-month tour.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And see, we know what's interesting about this story for me is that you chose to do the piece that spoke to you,
yes,
that you loved. It's not traditionally what you would do at an audition, but they said it's the best you've ever sounded because you did what you wanted to do, what spoke to you.
And I had my own feelings that were in the song.
Yes, that's so important.
Yes.
Wow. All right, I also want to hear a little bit about your first time getting into the summer theater. There was like a first time story. What was the first story?
Oh, this was after high school, and my very first summer theater it wasn't Equity, it wasn't Union, but my very first summer theater job, and I auditioned, and they in the show Showboat, the little girl Kim grows up. Actually, they usually cut it because it's too long. The show is too long, so I got the part, and I was thrilled. My first audition, my first show, I got the part of Kim. She had her own song at the end. So I get to the rehearsal, the first rehearsal, and the musical director pulled me aside. He said, Lana, he said, I didn't really realize they had offered it to someone else who had done shows with them before. She didn't answer. And she showed up for the first, because she thought she had it, so she just showed up. So I went home and I said to I told my mother about it. She said, well, I think that's what happens in theater. And I said, I guess you're right. I mean, all the times, all the war stories you have as you go along in these things. But there are some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experiences, too.
I found in that part of my life, I did some theater as well, along with the dancing, and it was such a character builder. And to get to the place where you can know that when you go into an audition that it's you have no idea why they're actually choosing you. So it's a point where you have to have enough self-esteem to say, okay, well, I'm going to do my best, and if I don't get it, don't get it. If I do, fantastic. Yeah. Because it could be because you don't fit into the costume.
Oh, it was for me once for Hello Dolly for the chorus. Yeah. You had to be 5'5", and I'm not. But that was when you wore your hair way up on top of your head, so I had high heels and my hair on top of my head. I got into the finals, and they lined us all up. Well, you can see that I'm not. And it was you had to wear the other person's costume. It was a replacement.
Oh, it's so, yeah. That's
so, I mean,
funny.
you have to be ready for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. But the camaraderie in theater, I think, is one of the most wonderful things. Being on the road with people, you do get along, and then you miss them when it's over.
Do you keep in contact with some of the people?
Oh,
that you,
sure.
Yes. Yeah, that's nice. And you actually, you recently visited someone that you used to work with? Did you do that? No?
Oh, I'm not
Well, you
sure.
went across the country to visit someone. I thought it was someone that you acted with. Maybe not.
No, it was a friend.
No, another friend.
No,
okay, but it's so true. I've kept in contact with a lot of the people that I used to perform with. And even though it's only for maybe a 6-month stint at a time, but you build some very strong friendships. It's important. Not everybody gets along well.
No, not everybody. Not everybody.
But it's all good. Yeah. You know how I feel about regret and about following dreams so that you don't have to have regret.
Right.
And I'd like you to tell us the story about the woman that helped you to not have regret about the theater.
Yes, so I was, this was after college, and I was, before we came to New York, and I was doing community theater in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we were doing, I don't remember the name of the show, actually, but the woman who was the lead was wonderful. She was really good. And then she said at the cast party, she said, well, if I hadn't had children and a husband, I would have been in New York and I would have made it. And I said, you know what? I can't have that happen. I can't live with that kind of regret. And saying to my child, or I have one child, but to my child or children at that time, I didn't know, if it weren't for you.
Oh, right.
You know,
I don't want to put that on them.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Yes, so you went for it.
Yeah.
And how was it touring with your son?
Oh, it was very interesting sometimes. Oh, one time in Atlantic, we had to get to Atlantic City, or Atlanta, I think it was Atlanta, and flew down there, and he had a sore throat. And I thought, uh-oh, we're going to be on the road for 6 weeks. I don't want him to be sick. So I get down there about 8 o'clock and go to the emergency room in Atlanta on a Saturday night. I mean, what was going on? Well, by the time because he wasn't really bad sick, by the time they got to him, he was feeling better. And it was midnight, and we went home.
Oh no, that's hysterical.
But it was good, and people were very kind and very good about. Sometimes they'd watch him so I could go in the pool or something if we had some time off. That was nice. Good. Yeah.
Now he probably doesn't remember any of that,
No, he doesn't remember that. No.